I was recently asked by someone responding to one of my videos. They said, "Are you saying you're enlightened?" and so this was a question that I guess I've been kind of dreading because really, I started making these videos as just a journal with maybe the intention of sharing them. And I started doing that sort of kind of right after enlightenment, I suppose. And at that time, I was still struggling with whether or not I wanted to use that word. And there's definitely something misleading about that word. It can be misleading for me to tell another person that I'm enlightened. And if I'm saying it to myself, it's not misleading at all. I know exactly what I mean by it. And but if I say it to someone else, I'm I'm misleading them if they understand that word to mean anything different from what I understand it to mean, which I think almost inevitably anyone would, right? How can someone else um, understand what a word means to me? I do try to describe what that word means to me in these videos. Um, and again, I've talked about this before, but when I say enlightenment happened, it doesn't mean that I've risen to some other level. It's more me bringing it down to this level. I think it's very accessible. Um, so if you're thinking of enlightenment as something out there or something at all other from what is, well, that's not what I'm talking about. Um, and I guess my hope is by sharing how I use that word and the impact that it's had on me and my life that maybe I give other people the freedom to explore that as well. Um, anyway, I contemplated different ways of answering that, but I really like what I finally came up with. I sat on it for a good 24 hours. I had written a response, I didn't share it. I went to bed, woke up, and realized that wasn't the response that I wanted. But the response that I finally landed on was something to the effect of that any answer I can give to the question of, especially to someone else, of am I enlightened, is just a story, right? And really, even to myself, it's just a story, right? Um, we're using words to describe what this all is, and this all is ambiguous, right? So I might say I'm enlightened, I might say I'm not enlightened. Those are both stories. Neither of them are the truth, right? Um, this is much more free than enlightened versus unenlightened. This is what it is. And yeah, so there isn't really a better way to answer that than to say that any of it is a story, right? I've thought before too, and I haven't really shared this, that enlightenment is kind of bullshit. Um, but it's also the realization that every other story is also bullshit, right? None of it is right. None of it is true. There's no enlightenment. There's no unenlightenment. There's no separate self here living a life. There's no separate self that's gone away. There's no one here who thinks there's no separate self. There's just what's happening. That's it, right? There's what's happening. There is all of this behaving how it behaves. In this case, it's behaving in a way that chooses to use the word enlightenment. And, you know, the idea that I could be enlightened was sort of the final story. In other words, it was the final story that I wouldn't allow myself to tell. Right, the story that I kept at arm's length, and I could embrace all other stories, but the idea that I was enlightened was the story that I refused to embrace. And once I embraced that story, then came the recognition that any story can be embraced because they're all just stories, right? Most recently, the story that I dislike something, or that I'm at unease with something, or dissatisfied. That story has been seen to be false, right? I can't ever prove that I'm really at ease with anything, and that allows the story that I love everything to be just as possible, and it allows me to live in that, which is a much nicer place to live when everything is love. Um, who wouldn't want that? But that is just a story too. That everything is love. It's just when all stories are bullshit, you just get to pick what you want, and I choose love.